Discover the incredible moment a millionaire brought a recycling hero to an EXS party. What she did next will leave you breathless. The night was tinged with extravagant golds and silvers, glittering chandeliers casting a warm glow over the swarming crowd. Sarah stepped inside Jake's sprawling mansion, her heart a kaleidoscope of emotions. The chic, elite atmosphere washed over her like a tidal wave, suffocating yet alluring. Conversations wafted around her like perfume, a potent blend of success and shallow boasts. Sarah had been invited as a last-minute surprise by the founder of the local eco-friendly startup who fancied her ideals. Standing at the entrance, Sarah felt the judgmental eyes twinkling with wealth honed in on her. She was the fish out of water, an advocate for sustainability amidst a sea of luxury. Her roots grounded her, the humble upbringing molded her values, compelling her to champion environmental change. But tonight, it felt like her efforts were drowning in a sea of superficiality. As she navigated through the opulent decor, the aroma of gourmet hors d'oeuvres surrounded her like a cruel joke. She spotted Jake through the crowd, confident and polished, sipping champagne as accolades poured in around him. Memories of simpler times washed over her. They were young, hopeful, dreaming of a better world together. But now, here he was, lighting fireworks of wealth while she trudged on, advocating for a planet in peril. When the host raised his glass to toast Jake's fortune, Sarah felt a jolt. A fiery urgency ignited within her. This was her moment. She stood up, pulse racing in her neck. I have something to say. The room fell into a heavy silence, eyes turning toward her in a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Look, I know you're celebrating success, Sarah said, her voice steadying. But what good is all this if our planet suffers? Community matters more than money, and your lifestyle creates a burden on future generations. Her words hung in the air, stark and raw, revealing the truth they buried under their glitzy facades. The gasp from the crowd broke the tension, shock rippled through them. Jake's expression transformed, caught between pride and shame. Standing just feet away from the girl he once loved, memories surged back. His charm and charisma felt like a mask now, this moment stripping it away like the peeling paint of an abandoned building. As he stood to address her, the weight of truth pressed heavily between them. What did their past mean in this reality? She, the environmental champion, and he, the millionaire. Their worldviews clashed, igniting a storm of unanswered questions around them. Still locked in Sarah's gaze, Jake's heart raced. Was it too late to reclaim the connection they shared? This was the moment that could crack through the gloss of wealth, cutting through the noise of feigned importance. The room held its breath, shadows of hope flickering in Sarah's eyes as she sought his response. She felt the world shift on its axis. Would he choose to embrace the warmth of authenticity and shared dreams, or cling to the icy throne of his success? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the tension thickened, the connections among the guests shifted. Sarah watched, her heart caught in her throat. The music faded, even the sound of ice clinking in glasses became a distant echo. They were no longer simply wealthy individuals but human beings grappling with the essence of legacy, questioning their values. Would Jake break free from his gilded cage? Would he recognize the beauty in their shared passion for a better world? The air was electric, charged with possibility, leaving the audience hanging on the precipice of revelation. Sarah's eyes locked onto Jake's, searching for the answer, yearning for the response that might reshape their destinies. Jake stood there, his champagne flute suspended in mid-air, his gaze locked on Sarah like she was a lighthouse in a storm. The crowd buzzed with murmurs, the room was alive, yet it felt as if time had crystallized around them. All he could hear was the thudding of his heart, drowning out the extravagant laughter and the clinking of glasses. What had once seemed like just a friendly gathering felt transformed into a critical junction in his life. "Sarah," he finally managed to say, confusion clouding his usually confident demeanor. I didn't expect this." The sincerity in his voice spilled the tension like a cascading wave. Sarah took a step closer, suddenly aware that the distance between them was both physical and emotional. "You didn't. You've built this empire on the backs of our planet's resources," she replied, her voice trembling with passion. "I thought you would understand what's at stake. How could you celebrate wealth when you know the cost?" His jaw clenched as he shifted his weight, absorbing her words. Was it possible that beneath the surface of this affluent facade, he too felt the unrest? "We've come so far," he replied, his voice gaining strength. "Things are different now. Are they? Or are we just playing roles that society has handed us?" She challenged, her words laced with intensity. In her eyes, Jake suddenly saw the fierce light that drew him to her in the first place. It shone through the disarray of old feelings, igniting something he feared may have laid dormant for too long. Guests exchanged glances, fascinated by the unfolding scene. They whispered amongst themselves, a mixture of judgment and intrigue sparking their conversations. Jake felt the weight of their stares, but the world outside of Sarah's embrace faded away. He took a breath, gathering his thoughts while searching her gaze for answers. "Maybe I've lost sight of what really matters," he said, almost to himself. "But having this life, it wasn't just about me. I thought I could help change things from a position of power. I thought you thought your privilege made you untouchable." She interjected, crossing her arms defiantly. "You ended up just like everyone else here, afraid to face the consequences of all this. Isn't it time you let go of that fear? Isn't it time you cared?" His heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of conflict. A rush of vulnerability surged within him. "I do care, Sarah. It's just hard to know how to fix everything. How to help without throwing it all away. What if you didn't have to choose?" She suggested, her voice softening for a moment. "What if you could find a way to use this power for good instead? To use this moment to wake everyone up?" Silence engulfed them again, the sincerity of her challenge hanging thick in the air. Sarah felt the heat of hope rise within her. Jake's brow furrowed, and in that brief moment, she believed he saw a path forward. But then he shifted again, uncertainty creeping back into his expression. "I have so much to lose," he began, but the words trailed off. Sarah could see the inner battle unfolding, the push and pull between authenticity and the identity he had constructed. "And what about what you could gain?" she implored, her heart racing. "Imagine being a leader, a real leader who inspires change instead of just accumulating it. This party isn't just a celebration, it could be the start of something meaningful." Jake looked around at the extravagance, his reality contrasting sharply with her vision. A glint of contemplation danced in his eyes, but doubt still lingered. The world they stood in was a contradiction, each element shouting of wealth and status while Sarah stood firm in her ideals. As he searched for the right words, the air shifted, carrying their unresolved tension into the surrounding crowd. Would Jake let this moment define him, or would he slip back into the comfort of his existing life? His silence screamed louder than his words ever could. What would be his next move? Sarah held her breath, the weight of hope pressing heavily on her heart as she awaited his choice. Wasn't he ready for changed everything? Jake's mind raced. Sarah's challenge buzzed like static in his ears, sparking thoughts he had buried for too long. Here he was, trapped between the glimmering life he had built and the haunting reality Sarah represented with her fiery words. The party around them dimmed in significance, becoming a backdrop for a personal reckoning. "Jake, this isn't just about you," Sarah pressed, her gaze unwavering. "It's about all of us. It's time to wake up and lead this conversation. Your platform can reach so many. You have a voice. Use it." He took a small step back, the unsteady rhythm of his heart echoing the pulse of the room. He felt as if the eyes of the guests were drilling into him, waiting for a performance. Yet this wasn't a show, it was life, real and raw. I've always believed that I could make a difference. That's why I got here. But lately, I've just been floating, he admitted, vulnerability inked on his face. I tell myself it's about creating jobs, building something that lasts. But is it really? Or is it just about survival? Sarah tilted her head, the glimmer of empathy softening her features. That's the first step, Jake. Recognizing it. Change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It takes courage, and it starts with a single choice. He let the weight of her words settle, feeling a knot loosen in his chest. What if she was right? What if he took that leap instead of clinging to the safety of his well-constructed identity? As the laughter and chatter spun off into the nighttime air, he realized he was yearning for more. But what if my power leads to the wrong conversations? Jake asked, dread creeping into his tone. What if, instead of change, I end up just creating more division? Then at least you tried, Sarah affirmed, her voice resolute. You can't control how others will react, but you can control your own actions. Show them that change is possible. Lead by example. Jake's heart thudded harder. He had never considered this vulnerability. Sharing space with uncertainty felt like stepping closer to the edge of a cliff, but for the first time, he felt a pull to dive in. I always wanted to bring my world and yours together, maybe it's time to really try, he acknowledged, an ember of courage flickering in his chest. She smiled softly, the weight of hope ignited again. Then let us do it together. You take the first step, and I'll be right here with you. The surrounding guests continued to whirl about, but Jake felt something shift within him, a gust of clarity that pushed away his doubts. With Sarah's words fueling his fire, he turned back to the gathering, their faces still expectantly watching. Listen up, he called out, his voice clearer than he anticipated. The room quieted. I know this party is meant to celebrate success, but we need to talk about responsibility. Wealth is a privilege we can't ignore. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He caught Sarah's glance, her proud smile a spark that ignited his confidence. Let us redirect our focus. Join me in committing to sustainable actions. Let us be leaders who care, not just those who collect. A murmur of disbelief spread through the crowd. Some looked shocked, others intrigued. What had he just done? In that heartbeat between thought and action, Jake realized he had stepped into a new chapter of his life. Sarah's eyes shimmered with appreciation, but before he could latch onto that warmth, a sharp voice cut through the air. And what makes you think we should listen to you? The question dripped with skepticism, dragging the moment into chaos. Jake's jaw tightened. Had he just opened a floodgate? Or was it possible that this was the beginning of something beautiful? As he stood before his guests, their reactions swirling, Jake felt both the adrenaline and fear rise within him. Would he rise to the occasion, or would he lock himself back behind the carefully constructed walls of his life? Yeah, this was only the beginning. What lies ahead could change everything. Wasn't he prepared for? Jake's breath caught in his throat. The skepticism in the crowd hovered like a storm cloud, dark and heavy. Had he made a colossal mistake? They looked at him not just as a successful entrepreneur but as a man with the potential to disrupt the very fabric of their comfortable lives. Each angle of their gaze felt judgmental, each whisper a challenge. Who are you to talk about responsibility? A woman's voice called from the back. Hushed murmurs followed, a wave of doubt surging through the room. You've built your fortune on the backs of others. The room fell into a tense silence. Jake's heart raced. She was right, he had played the game and come out on top, largely shielded from the very issues Sarah confronted every day. But instead of shrinking back, he stood straighter. He felt Sarah's presence beside him, grounding him, urging him to dig deeper. Fair point, Jake said, keeping his voice steady. I've been part of the problem. I've done little more than scratch the surface. But tonight, I want to be part of the solution. He scanned the crowd. If I can inspire even one conversation, maybe we can change the narrative. There's no way that's true. A man interjected, arms crossed defiantly. Your wealth blinds you to the realities we face. How do you expect us to believe you now? Jake felt a mixture of anger and determination swirl within him. I don't expect you to believe me right away. The truth is, I've hidden behind my success. I've chosen comfort over accountability for too long. He took a deep breath, ready to lay bare his truth. But no more. He could see the tension shift slightly, uncertainty mingling with a flicker of curiosity. The voices that once jabbed at his self-image began fading, replaced by a frail hope that maybe there was room for a dialogue. Let's start with something small, Jake continued. Imagine if every one of us here dedicated just one day a month to volunteer in our communities. Imagine pooling our resources to support environmental initiatives. We have the power to invest in change, not just in profits. The audience shifted, some nodding thoughtfully. Sarah's face brightened as she stepped closer, her excitement palpable. Yes. We can embrace sustainability, not just in our businesses, but in our lives, showing others what we stand for. Jake's heart soared. He took that delicate momentum and ran with it. He began to share stories, weaving in personal experiences, recounting moments of vulnerability that had led him to this reckoning. He spoke about the people affected by neglect, the dad working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table, the single mother overwhelmed with barriers. With every word, he felt the walls around him start to crack. He no longer felt like a mere host at this party, he felt as if he were igniting a fire. Laughter erupted from an unexpected corner of the room when he narrated a misadventure about his poorly timed attempts to go green. It was a pivotal moment, humor embraced the gravity of his message, and he could see more faces soften. As the evening unfolded, more people began to speak up. Questions arose, discussions ignited. Plans started to form. Jake couldn't believe it, he was leading a conversation he never thought would happen. He was finally stepping into the role he had been meant to play. But then, just as things began to spiral into a beautiful tapestry of connection and commitment, someone interrupted again. It was a familiar face from his past, a face that carried a different weight altogether. Are you really ready for the backlash that comes with real change? She asked, seriousness etched on her brows. The room hushed again, all eyes on Jake. Was he? Would he be able to sustain this moment beyond the party's edges? Jake held his breath. The questions loomed larger than any he had confronted before. Change was calling his name loud and clear, but could he really answer? Wasn't expecting. Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The question hung in the air, thick and heavy. All eyes were locked onto him, a spotlight shining bright on his vulnerabilities. Sarah sensed his hesitation, she leaned in a little closer, her presence a silent reassurance. You have to own this, Jake, her eyes seemed to say. He inhaled deeply, trying to harness the swell of emotions crashing over him. This was more than just words, it was a moment that could shape everything that followed. Honestly? I don't know if I can handle everything that comes with it, he confessed, vulnerability washing over him. But what I do know is that staying silent is no longer an option. A ripple of surprise passed through the crowd. Jake's honesty was disarming, it stripped away layers of pretense. I've lived in a bubble for far too long, and I'm ready to step out of it, he continued. But I need your help. I can't do this alone. A voice from the middle of the room piped up, we need people like you to wake up. But what's in it for you? What do you really stand to gain? Jake ran a hand through his hair, sensing the distrust still brewing beneath the surface. For too long, I played the game like it was a sport, he admitted, but what's the point of winning if your victory doesn't help anyone? I want something genuine, not just an ego boost. A legacy worth leaving behind. The crowd shifted again, as if they were processing an unexpected truth. He could see that some were letting go of their skepticism, cautious hope flickering in their eyes. "Let us be real," Jake said, leaning into the vulnerability that surrounded him. "Change comes with risks. I've been warned about backlash, and I've lost friends for challenging the status quo before. But I firmly believe in this and being a better version of ourselves." The woman who had initially criticized him spoke again, this time with a softer edge. "What is your next step, Jake? Words are great, but actions matter more." He could feel his heartbeat quickening. Here was the challenge wrapped in the love of accountability. "That's just it. I plan to use my resources to support initiatives we can all get behind. I want to work alongside you to craft a community that fights for what's right," he asserted. "I'll be right there in the trenches with you all." Much to his relief, a round of tentative applause broke out, and he couldn't help but smile. There was energy buzzing amongst them now, possibility invigorating the air. "I have a friend," Sarah chimed in, beaming with excitement. "An incredible woman who has made a huge impact in recycling initiatives. If we can bring her here next time, she can share her expertise, and we can brainstorm ideas together." Jake's heart lifted. Sarah's grasp of community and her unshakable spirit had always inspired him. "Yes. That's perfect," he exclaimed, a spark igniting within him. But just then, his past caught up with him again. The same woman who had questioned his readiness raised her hand again, face a mix of disbelief and challenge. "How do we know this isn't just a passing phase for you? What happens when the spotlight fades and the real work begins?" The room fell silent. Jake felt the weight of her accusation like a lead balloon. The stakes were rising, and the fear of failure loomed large. Could he withstand the pressure once he stepped outside of this protective bubble he'd created? With the crowd awaiting his answer, Jake lifted his chin, determination flooding through him. "You'll know by my actions, not just my words. I'll be back not just to talk, but to carry this forward." A wave of anticipation swept through the room, as some faces lit up with newfound hope, while others remained skeptically engrossed in the moment. What lay ahead was unknown, but as Jake stood there amidst the charged energy, he could feel the winds of change beginning to stir. And with that thought, as he locked eyes with Sarah, a flicker of hesitation crossed his mind. Was he prepared to face the consequences of the road that now seemed destined to unfold? Jake's determination filled the room, but uncertainty still sat heavy on his heart. The applause faded, leaving a space charged with potential like a coiled spring ready to unleash. "Okay, Jake," Sarah said, breaking the silence. Her voice held that steadiness he relied on. "What's our first move?" He took a moment, glancing around at the faces watching him, reflecting every doubt, every hope. He remembered why he had stepped forward to challenge himself and ignite a sense of community. "Let us start small. We can hold a meeting here next week, lay out the groundwork and see who wants to get involved." A man in the back raised his hand. "And what about communication? How do we keep people informed and engaged?" His question felt like a lifeline. Jake felt gratitude swell. "That's the key, isn't it? We can set up a group chat or a mailing list. The more people know about our plans, the more likely they are to join." The energy shifted again as more hands shot up with ideas. Hearts were waking, bonds were forming. Even the woman who had questioned him earlier now wore a thoughtful expression. Jake realized he was watching fear morph into something more powerful: curiosity. "I'll help with the digital side," she offered, surprising herself and everyone else. "Social media's my playground. We can create a campaign to raise awareness." "Great. We need a catchy name for our initiative too," Sarah chimed in, her eyes gleaming with potential. "Something that sticks. We want people to remember what we stand for." "How about Green Futures?" Jake suggested, feeling a surge of excitement. The group echoed approval, and the name began to resonate with energy. They tossed ideas back and forth about setting up events, reaching out to local businesses for support, and even planning a small community cleanup the following weekend. With each passing minute, Jake felt more at home among them. The sense of purpose forming in that room created a warmth that seeped into his bones. This was what he had wanted: connection, commitment, and genuine change. He could hardly contain his joy. After a while, they began to wrap things up, setting the next meeting and reminding each other to spread the word. "Let us meet again next week, okay? We'll make this happen together," Jake urged, determination bubbling within him. As they filtered out, Sarah lingered, a playful smile tugging at her lips. "You were incredible, Jake. I knew you had it in you. But, have you thought about how we'll handle the naysayers? They might push back." Jake nodded, the weight of her words pressing on him. "Yeah, I get that. I know there will be challenges, but if we stay true to our mission, we can face anything together. This time, it's different. I'm not backing down no matter what." Sarah's expression softened. "I'll be right there with you. We've got this." As he stepped outside the community center, the cool evening air hit him, and he took a deep breath. Hope thrummed in his veins. But in the back of his mind, lingering shadows darted around, whispering doubts of failure. He pushed them away. The excitement of taking action filled him. He couldn't shake the feeling that real change was closer than he'd ever thought possible. Yet as the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness began to settle in, he realized the hardest part was just starting. That night, unable to shake off his nerves, Jake's phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. His heart raced. "Good luck with your big plans, Jake. You're going to need it." A chill swept through him. Who was this? What did they know? And what were they planning? As confusion gripped him, the reality of the challenge ahead loomed larger than ever. Would he truly be strong enough to change his world? The next morning, Jake woke up with the tension still pulsing in his chest like an echo of last night's message. The sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating the room, yet it felt muted compared to the weight pressing down on him. He turned off his alarm, but instead of feeling refreshed, he was consumed with thoughts of who had sent that message. He got up, splashed cold water on his face, and sat down at his kitchen table with a cup of coffee. He hoped that some caffeine would help him shake off the nerves. As he stared out the window, watching the vibrant leaves dance in the autumn breeze, his mind wandered to the ideas discussed in the meeting. They were alive with promise, but now it seemed like shadows had already begun encroaching on that light. Picking up his phone, he hesitated before checking for replies from his initial outreach to the community. What if no one was interested? What if they turned their backs once the novelty wore off? His doubts nagged at him, but Jake pushed them aside. He reminded himself that they had already turned fear into curiosity, he just needed to fuel that fire. As if summoned by his thoughts, a notification popped up: a group chat had been created for Green Futures. Excitement momentarily pushed away his unease. But as he read through the messages, his heart sank. Some folks were passionate, eager to roll up their sleeves, but others voiced their skepticism. One strong voice echoed, "Community projects take time and energy. Can we trust that anyone will stay committed?" Jake could feel the challenge shaping up against him. Naysayers were inevitable, but their doubts felt like a trap, ready to ensnare the hopeful spirit he'd just ignited. He took a breath and typed out a response. "Trust me, we'll prove that passion can turn plans into action. Let us not focus on what might hinder us but on what we can accomplish together." Hitting send made him feel brave, but the gnawing apprehension remained. Would they actually believe him? A sudden text ping jolted him. It was Sarah. "Hey, how's it going? Ready for round 2? He could hear her encouraging tone in his mind, and it made him smile. "Not quite yet. I'm still battling the naysayers," he replied. "Don't let them get you down. Meet me later at the coffee shop. We can brainstorm and tackle this together." That sounded perfect. He needed her steady presence and fresh ideas. "See you there," he answered quickly, urgency rising within him. As he grabbed his jacket and left the house, the sky stretched overhead, a mixture of blue and fluffy clouds. But instead of feeling the warmth of encouragement, the chill from the stranger's message crawled back into his mind. What did they know? What were they planning? The coffee shop bustled with life. As soon as he stepped inside, he spotted Sarah at their usual spot, excitedly waving him over. It felt good to be with someone who shared his determination. They ordered their drinks and settled into a corner booth, the aroma of roasted beans wrapping around them like a warm embrace. "I'm really feeling pumped about our next meeting," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling. "We can focus on promoting our event to really get people engaged." Jake nodded, needing her enthusiasm to lift his mood. "Absolutely. I just hope we can keep the momentum going. And maybe we shouldn't ignore those who might not support us. Well, we'll deal with them when the time comes. For now, let us refocus on our goals," she suggested. In that moment, he felt a surge of clarity. "You're right. I can't let doubt win. If they want to be stubborn, fine, but we'll show them what a community can actually do." Just then, his phone buzzed again, startling him. He pulled it out to see another message from the unknown number, this one more chilling: "You won't succeed if you don't play by the rules. I hope you're ready for the truth." The coffee shop blurred around him as he stared at the screen, his blood running cold. What did this person know? What truth were they hinting at? He looked up at Sarah, her smile fading as she watched the change in his expression. "Jake. What's wrong?" He swallowed hard, wrestling with the uncertainty. Would his resolve crumble under the weight of hidden threats? "Nothing, just, it's going to be a lot tougher than I thought." Jake couldn't shake the feeling that the battle had already begun, and he was standing on the edge of something he may be unprepared for. How deep did this rabbit hole go? Would he be able to face whatever challenges lay ahead? Jake's heart raced as he put his phone on the table, his fingers still trembling from the weight of the latest message. The words echoed in his mind, a dull thud of unfamiliar dread. Sarah leaned forward, concern etched on her face. "Hey, talk to me. What did they say?" He hesitated, swallowing the swirling anxieties before finally responding. "It's just another message. They're taunting me, saying I need to play by the rules and that there's truth I need to be ready for." Sarah's brows knitted together. "That sounds ominous. Do you think it's someone trying to intimidate you?" "Yeah, or worse. It feels like they know something I don't. Like they're watching me." Her eyes widened, and she leaned back slightly, letting the idea settle between them. "Okay, let us not spiral. We've got a plan to build here, and we can't let this whoever it is disrupt that." Jake appreciated her steadiness, but the uncertainty clung to him like a thick fog. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. "You're right. I can't waste time worrying about shadows. We need to focus on our next steps." "Exactly," she said, her enthusiasm returning. "So, how about we brainstorm some ideas for our community event? What can we do to really pull people in?" He felt the tension in his shoulders ease just a little. "Definitely. How about we tie in a competition? Something fun, like a community challenge related to sustainability. People love a little friendly rivalry." "Love it. We can leverage social media, create hashtags, get people fired up. Imagine a little prize for the winner, a garden starter kit, or renewable energy products." As they tossed ideas back and forth, Jake felt a spark igniting within him. The waves of anxiety began to recede, replaced with a shared excitement that bubbled over the small table between them. They spent the next hour sketching out plans, fueled by a combination of coffee and their collective enthusiasm. But the fleeting joy of possibility was often interrupted by the dark undercurrents of his worries. Each time his phone buzzed, his stomach tightened, expecting another menacing message. In the midst of planning, Sarah glanced at his phone. "Do you want to just block that number?" Jake shook his head. "If I block them, I'll feel like I'm hiding. I need to confront this, whatever it is. The determination in his voice surprised even him. He was tired of being a passive player in whatever game someone was orchestrating. Just as they wrapped up their meeting, Sarah glanced out the window. "Hey, there's that recycling fair happening downtown today, the one people have been buzzing about. Maybe we should stop by, get a feel for the community outlook." It seemed like a great idea, a way to connect. "Let us go. Maybe we can scout for support, find others who are as passionate about this as we are." They finished their drinks, excitement fluttering like leaves caught in the wind. As they stepped out of the cafe, the busy street buzzed with energy. But beneath the happy chatter of pedestrians was a lingering disquiet that clung to Jake. "Sarah," he started, hesitating. "What if this message is more than just a threat? What if there is something deeper?" She looked at him, determination softening her features. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together. You've got me, and we've got this community. But first, let us see what people are doing down there." As they made their way through the crowd, the atmosphere was alive with hope and connection. Yet the warning still loomed in Jake's mind like a specter. When they arrived at the fair, stalls were set up showcasing innovative recycling ideas and tools. But as they wandered, Jake's eyes drifted to see a familiar figure across the street. His breath caught when he recognized her, Emma, his ex. What was she doing here? And as if sensing his gaze, she turned, locking eyes with him across the busy fair. The world blurred around him. Why was she here? Was this a coincidence, or had this all been orchestrated? Heat surged through him, a mix of rage and confusion, urging him to move towards her. But would this conversation open up old wounds or reveal new truths he wasn't prepared to face? The moment hung heavy in the air, and Jake found himself standing on the brink of a decision that could change everything. Jake hesitated, rooted to the spot by a whirlwind of emotions and old memories. This wasn't just any meeting. Emma felt like a ghost returning to haunt him after years of silence. He could see her there, vibrant in that cheerful crowd, her laughter rising above the hum of conversation. Just a few steps away, Sarah was oblivious to the internal battle waging inside him. She was animatedly pointing out a booth about upcycling, her creativity shining. But Jake's focus was elsewhere, replaying every moment they shared, every word left unsaid. "Jake. Hello." Her voice cut through his daze. He blinked, trying to regain his composure. "Yeah, sorry. Just lost in thought." "About the fair?" Her questioning look followed his gaze to where Emma stood. A subtle shift passed between them as she recognized the complexity of the situation. I just need a moment," he stuttered, before slowly making his way through the throng. Each step felt heavier than the last. Why was he drawn to this? As he approached, memories flooded his mind. The fun road trips, the late-night talks that felt so right, and the way they had shared a vision of a future that crumbled like sandcastles beneath the tide. Emma's voice surprised him, filled with a blend of warmth and uncertainty, yet laced with something sharper, like an edge waiting to be acknowledged. "Emma." The single word drifted between them, breaking the space where words had been absent for so long. "I didn't think I'd see you here," she said, her smile caught in the tension hanging in the air. "Same here." He swallowed hard. "What are you doing at a recycling fair?" "Supporting a cause I believe in." Her eyes were steady, searching his face. "Just like you." The realization swept over him. She hadn't changed. The same fire that had drawn him to her burned brightly still. "And you still believe in all this?" he asked, gesturing to the vibrant stalls showcasing community initiatives. "Of course. I've always believed in making a difference." She hesitated, and he sensed an unspoken weight to her words. "But it's a little different now. Being a part of something feels more meaningful without certain distractions." The unbridled honesty stung. He felt the ache of a lost connection, overshadowed by his own confusion and insecurity. Obvious distractions. Emma's laughter came softly, a hint of nostalgia behind it. You know what I mean. Jake, I've missed this. We were so good at wanting to change the world. He shifted uncomfortably, trapped between old warmth and current fears. Change the world? Or change our worlds? Maybe both. She replied, a flicker of hope crossing her face. Just as Jake felt a yearning to explore this moment, Sarah suddenly appeared beside him, her expression a delicate mix of curiosity and concern. What is going on here? Just catching up, Emma replied, her tone almost light. But Jake could see she was measuring her words carefully. Catching up, huh? Sarah raised her eyebrows, clearly picking up on more than surface-level vibes. Before he could respond, Emma took a step back, folding her arms. Looks like we've got a lot to unpack, then. Maybe we can wait. Jake blurted out, his heart racing again. What do you mean by, we need to unpack? The air thickened with unspoken truths, hesitation lingering. The message he'd received earlier, the sense of being watched, and now this unexpected confrontation felt like a complex puzzle awaiting a solution, one that could unravel everything he sought. Let's just enjoy the fare first, Emma suggested, her eyes glimmering with mischief. There's a lot to see, and even more to discuss. Jake felt a pull toward this unexpected reunion, yet the weight of the previous message loomed heavy in his mind, waiting for him to act. He'd initially thought this fare might relieve his worries, but increasingly, it felt like a doorway leading him deeper into complexity. As he glanced back at Sarah, he saw her unreadable expression, caught between support and the inevitable tension ignited by Emma's presence. What would he choose, the past that was pulling him in, or the uncertain path that awaited him with Sarah? Okay, he finally said, steeling himself, let's see what's happening around here. But we also need to talk together. All of us. Jake's heart raced anew. What would this unexpected meeting reveal, and would he find the strength to confront truths that had long been buried? The fair buzzed with activity, sunlight streaming through colorful fabric awnings while laughter and conversation danced around them. Jake stood at the crossroads of nostalgia and new beginnings, an invisible weight anchoring him between Emma and Sarah, both pulling him in different directions. Right, let's dive in, he said, forcing enthusiasm into his tone. He felt both a desire to reconnect with the past and a need to forge ahead with Sarah. The tension amongst the three felt electric, charged with possibilities. As they moved through the various booths showcasing eco-friendly innovations, Jake watched Sarah's passion shine brightly. She engaged with a vendor explaining solar-powered garden lights, her eyes glittering with excitement. That infectious energy reminded him why they had come together in the first place. Emma lingered close, her presence a soft reminder of dreams unfulfilled. You're doing something incredible, Jake, she said as they stopped to look at a display on composting techniques. I always knew you had it in you. This is the kind of work that matters. The smile on his face faltered slightly. Thanks, but it's not just me. Sarah's the driving force behind this. He cast a glance towards her. If it weren't for her, I'd likely still be hiding behind my privilege. Maybe, but you took that leap, Emma insisted, a hint of admiration coloring her voice. That's what makes a difference. Sarah turned, catching the tail end of their conversation. Hey! Let's not forget how much you two can achieve together, too. Her words hung like a flickering flame, illuminating the possibility of collaboration. When Jake locked eyes with Emma, a wave of vulnerability washed over him. Being here, it reminds me how we once dreamed of making a real impact, he confessed, his guard momentarily lowered. Their conversation paused, the laughter of nearby children and the rustling of leaves punctuating the silence. Do you still want that? To make an impact? Emma asked softly. Of course, I do. I mean, I didn't think it was possible, not until recently, he admitted. The truth felt freeing, as if revealing his authentic self could bridge the gap between them. Suddenly, Sarah interjected, then let's make it happen together. Jake, We need all hands on deck. Why don't we invite Emma to join the initiative? Her insight could be invaluable. Jake glanced at Emma, hope flickering in his heart. Seriously? Emma's expression lit up. I'd love to help. I've been involved with local organizations fighting climate change, and see. This is the connection we need. Sarah chimed in, an excitement building around them like an incoming tide. Jake felt warmth curling in his chest, the tension from before beginning to dissolve. This moment felt like an awakening. The weight of the previous evening's messages faded as he focused on what's before him. Great. And we can start right now. Let us gather ideas. We can launch a project that showcases reuse and recycling. Emma nodded, her eyes brightening. We could hold workshops. Teach people how to repurpose items, give them hands-on experiences. Exactly. Sarah exclaimed. We'll draw the community in, and who knows, we might inspire more change. As they moved through the rest of the fair, exchanging ideas and laughter, Jake found himself more at ease than he had in weeks. Despite the lingering darkness of the earlier messages, clarity blossomed. Change was within reach, and it wasn't just about Jake anymore. It was a collective effort. But just as they began to relax into their partnership, a sudden intuition pricked at Jake's consciousness. He pulled out his phone, hesitating again before checking for messages. A sinking feeling returned when he saw it again. This time it contained just one sentence: don't let your newfound hope blind you. I know your secrets. His heart pounded. Could they be referring to him? What truths were lurking beneath the surface? The uncertainty flickered in his mind like a fire sparked by wind, threatening to unravel everything he had begun to build with Sarah and Emma. Jake? You okay? Sarah's voice broke through his spiraling thoughts, concern etched across her features. Yeah, I'm fine, he replied automatically, trying to keep the facade. Just figuring my next move. Okay, but don't forget, we're a team now. The look Sarah gave him, steady and empathetic, sparked something within him. With determination and unity standing tall around him, Jake decided that he wouldn't let fear dictate his choices. He wasn't just here to change the dialogue, he wanted to encourage authenticity and bravery, in himself and others. Let us do this. Jake said, a newfound resolve in his voice. Let us launch green futures, and make it bigger than we imagined. Excitement flooded the trio as they gathered ideas, not knowing the challenges ahead but ready to face them, together. This was only the beginning of transformation, not just personal, but systemic. And as they embraced the pathway toward change, Jake promised himself that whatever threats lay ahead, he wouldn't retreat. He would stand with Sarah and Emma, facing every shadow that dared rise. Because this time, he wouldn't just hope for a brighter future, he was going to create it. This was their moment, the moment they all needed to seize and make real. And so, against all odds, they would fight for their vision, a vision that would elevate not just their dreams, but the lives of countless others. So if you found inspiration in this transformation, if this moment moved you, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your engagement matters more than ever. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings, what resonated with you the most. And don't wait not even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Real change starts with us.